Several countries in Europe have suspended their use of Astrazeneca vaccine. They're worried about possible side effects. The WHO says it's safe to use, but as new cases surge, how will this affect Europe's vaccination rollout? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Hashem Ahelbarra. A growing number of European countries are suspending the Oxford-Astrazeneca COVID-19 vaccine. There are concerns the jab may have caused some recipients to develop blood clots, but health agencies say there's no evidence such conditions are linked to the vaccine. And they insist the benefits of getting the shots far outweigh any potential risk. This comes as Europe is already short on vaccine supplies and struggling to contain a surge in new infections. Some countries outside the continent have also put their vaccination scheme on hold, thus raising fears about potential effects on people who were already reluctant to get the shot. The European Medicines Regulator and the World Health Organization are now investigating the possible side effects.
There is no indication that vaccination has caused these conditions. They have not come up in the clinical trials and they're not listed as known or expected side events with this vaccine. In clinical trials, both the vaccinated people and the people who received the placebo have shown some very small numbers of blood clot developments. The number of thromboembolic events overall in the vaccinated people seems not to be higher than that seen in the general population.
The rollout of the AstraZeneca shot has been going on in the UK and Belgium. While some have brushed off the controversy, others have shown reluctance about getting the jab.
For me, I think to myself, you know, there's always going to be some sort of side effects of all medications, all medicines. So I believe it's all in their interest. But overall, I mean, you look at the percentages are minor compared to how many people have had it and how many people have had equal sort of like, the negatives. So for me, it's outweighed the cons anyway, you know what I mean? So for me, I think it's basically a concern which I think, is minor.
If I could choose, I would rather have another vaccine because of the different stories you hear in other countries that have stopped using it. But because I couldn't choose, I came here anyway. There have been a few cases, but not so many in our country. That's why I came to have the AstraZeneca vaccine.
All this fuss in the media, it makes me dizzy. I have faith in science. Why should we all give our opinion on it? I think you have more chance of blood clots with COVID than with this AstraZeneca vaccine.
More than a dozen countries have suspended their use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Austria was first to pause while investigating a death from coagulation disorders. Days later, Denmark stopped administering the shot after a 60-year-old woman died of blood clotting after receiving the jab. France, Germany, Spain and Italy say they are waiting the results of the EU regulator's investigation before resuming their AstraZeneca vaccinations. Sweden and Latvia became the latest to announce a pause on Tuesday. And outside Europe, Indonesia and Democratic Republic of Congo have stopped their rollout, while Thailand has just resumed the use of the vaccine after a temporary pause. Let's bring in our guests in Barcelona. Jeffrey Lazarus, head of the Health Systems Research Group at Barcelona Institute for Global Health. In Rabat, Ibrahimi, head of the Biotechnology Lab at the Rabat Medical School and professor of Medical Biotechnology at Mohammed V University Biotechnology Society. In Reading, in the UK, Simon Clark, an associate professor in cellular microbiology at the University of Reading. Welcome to you all. Jeffrey, now we're waiting to hear from the European Medicines Agency about the findings of this particular case, but they seem to be indicating that they might be in favor of resuming the vaccinations, particularly when they say that the overall numbers of the cases related to the thromboembolic events that we had so far do not seem to be a concern.
That's right. It will be a sleepless night for many, but we are right now expecting the European Medicines Agency to report that there is not a greater number of cases among those who have been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine than we would expect in the general population.
Azeddine, in Morocco, vaccination campaign has been going normally over the last few weeks. It's been fine, credited by the international community as doing well, but people are now pretty much concerned, particularly knowing that Morocco is and has been using AstraZeneca vaccine.
Well, actually, in Morocco, I think, thank you for the question, Hashem, is we have almost like 5 million people that got jabs from the AstraZeneca, and so far we have 4 people with this indication. But I think it's really amazing that we are having this discussion right now and having this discussion from European countries. We thought that science is coming from Europe, but I think right now, it's more politics than science, because I don't see any scientific person around the world can say that there is an effect or an indication that this kind of reaction that we are having and thrombosis is caused by the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Simon, I think Azeddine is talking about this disconnect between what is political and what is scientific. Given the fact that we have 17 million people who have taken so far the vaccine, and you have 40 cases somehow, 40 cases of blood clots, when you look at the percentage itself, does it make really sense to talk about any causal link?
No, there really isn't a causal link based entirely on the numbers, at least from what we've been told by European regulators. I do wonder whether they have their eye on other factors. But if they are, then they need to be very honest and very open about it, because at the moment, all they're really doing is frightening people. And I think there is evidence of some vaccine hesitancy now, even in the UK, when really it's not based on any numbers or any real correlation as far as we can see.
Jeffrey, who do you think should be leading now the fight against COVID-19? Because from the start, we have always been having this problem between the scientific community and the political establishment. And we do understand why politicians around the world, particularly in Europe, are pretty much concerned, and they would like to be shown as taking the lead in saying no when it is no. But from now onwards, how do you see things unfolding in Europe in particular?
It has to be the scientific community. I mean, there's a reason we have a European Medicines Agency, and to date, they've been saying that there is no evidence to stop use of the AstraZeneca vaccine. So now they're conducting an investigation under political pressure, but we are where we are. There's an increased perception of risk among the population, as was just mentioned. And I'm hoping that tomorrow they will confirm what they've been saying all along, that this low number of cases is not linked, that there's no causality between the AstraZeneca vaccine and blood clots. And if that's the case, we'll be able to resume the vaccination campaigns, but it will be quite challenging now with some of the population losing some of their confidence in the vaccines, but hopefully increasing their confidence in the process.
Azeddine, you brushed aside the concerns as purely political. In Morocco, how does it go? Now, you've been giving the vaccine to hundreds of thousands of people, particularly AstraZeneca.
Actually, in Morocco, it's quite...
And you've been doing the follow-up, and you seem to be confident there is no concern. There's no concern. You're not concerned at all.
But actually, we did it in Morocco the right way, actually. I think it's amazing that someone would stop using a drug or a vaccine to harmonize the politics in Europe. When I see the statement from the French presidency, actually, I'm really hallucinating. I think I'm not talking about Europe anymore, because in Morocco we did it the right way. The right way, we have the scientific committee meeting, and we discussed how many cases we have, and we thought that we for 4 cases in Morocco, over 6 million people that were actually vaccinated with AstraZeneca. I think the benefits is there. I think I agree with my friend, with my colleague. Actually, how can we manage now the damage done actually to the confidence or to the trust of the population? I think it's what's happening in France is a really a misery. I think first, and in Germany also, actually, when you have in Germany actually 7 cases over 1.7 million people vaccinated, I think if it was a German company, do you think that they will have stopped the vaccination? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm really angry about that. I think it's really amazing, this kind of this decision.
Simon, we're talking about the EU, which in a normal landscape should be leading in the fight, in the vaccination campaign, which doesn't seem to be the case. Now, if you look at the situation the way it is, particularly when it comes to the AstraZeneca vaccine, so far it's been established scientifically that no one was hospitalized or became seriously ill due to COVID-19 after receiving the first jab. Wasn't this enough on its own for the political elite in Europe to say, you know what, we see the concerns there, but we have to go on?
That's an entirely reasonable thing to say. Even if there was a small effect on blood clotting, you would have to weigh that against the positive effect that the vaccine has on protecting people from COVID-19. Very few things are without any risk at all. Taking paracetamol represents a risk. Getting onto an aeroplane represents a risk for deep vein thrombosis, but people still do it because they judge the benefits from those things to outweigh the risks. So even when there are known risks, and we certainly don't know that to be the case with this vaccine for COVID-19, then people still make rational decisions to proceed with them. So that should have been taken into consideration, and I hope will be.
Jeffrey, where does it leave AstraZeneca, the company itself, that has been battered from day one by all sorts of challenges and problems? You remember at the beginning when it was many countries recommended not to administer the vaccine for people who are older than 65, and then they reversed that decision. Now you have this suspension. What does it leave the company?
The short-term future of the AstraZeneca vaccine is clearly in jeopardy, but hopefully that will change tomorrow. And and I think they will, the EMA clears the vaccine for use. I hope that all European Union member states will accept that, and then the company's in good shape again, because the AstraZeneca vaccine is an important tool we have. I mean, fortunately, the world has other vaccines with Pfizer, Moderna, now Johnson & Johnson, and others from Russia and China. But the AstraZeneca vaccine was specifically developed so that it could be used at a low cost, all around the world. So it's an extremely important vaccine. And right now, the company's in a tough spot, but the European Medicines Agency has made it clear that they do not think there's any causality.
Azeddine, you're a member of the scientific committee that decides how to move forward in Morocco, which kind of medicine to acquire in the near future. Given this debate about AstraZeneca, you have been using Sinopharma and AstraZeneca for some time. Is this something which is going to put more pressure on you guys to look out for other alternatives like Johnson & Johnson or Moderna, for example?
Well, for Morocco, I mean, quite clear. We just authorized actually to get AstraZeneca from Korea through the COVAX initiative from the World Health Organization, and I think we get our share of that. The other thing, we ordered actually to some Sputnik vaccine after emergency utilization. I think it's tough to get Johnson & Johnson because the American has all the orders and they will keep it for them until the end of their campaign for mass vaccination. I think for Morocco, and I have to come back to talk about the benefits, because when you see that we are allowing chemotherapy actually And everybody knows that chemotherapy maybe is killing more people than the cancer. And we keep it as a therapy for people because the benefits is there. And here we have 70 million people in Europe, actually, that were vaccinated with AstraZeneca. And after that, we have 40 people that were actually showing maybe. It's a really, we have to keep it this way because there is no clear indication, the link between the two. We decided to stop it. I think it's not good for Europe. It's not good for us because now we have to go through all our media to explain why we keep using that.
Simon, it's been baffling to some people that while in a country like where Azeddine comes from, Morocco, the vaccination campaign has been doing very well. In Europe, it's been sluggish, a disaster according to other people. You've been having the delivery shortfalls by AstraZeneca. And against the background of all these problems, the European Union does not seem to be having some sense of clarity about how to tackle vaccination campaign. It's creating more problems for doctors.
Yes, they just don't seem to have got themselves organised in a way that many other countries, including the UK, have. And that is a great shame because, of course, the European Union is made up of advanced nations who, for the most part, would be perfectly able to cope with something like this, and not only ordering the vaccination, but making sure that it was administered to their populations. So really, this is a lack of organisation, not only in terms of ordering them far enough in advance, but also for distributing them and making sure they get into people.
And this is not the only challenge that AstraZeneca has been grappling with. A report from the Wits University in Johannesburg says the AstraZeneca vaccine is less effective against the South African variant. It was found to be less than 60% effective at preventing mild to moderate infection. The early trial was carried out on more than 2,000 participants, but despite the setback, wider data show the vaccine can still prevent severe illness and deaths from COVID-19. South Africa halted the use of AstraZeneca in February. Jeffrey, it's all about now perceptions, it's all about the confidence in AstraZeneca. Do you see them now under massive pressure to manufacture a third dose that would restore confidence in the company itself?
Well, I do. I think they need to look seriously at the situation with the South African variant, or the variant observed in South Africa. And the other companies as well are looking into how to either rejig the current vaccine or develop boosters. So that's important. But importantly, we need to remember that the AstraZeneca vaccine does work against severe cases, even with the South African variant. And of course, across Europe, where that variant isn't so widespread, it's not as big an issue.
Azeddine, in Morocco, variants, mutations are something we have to deal with in the near future because the virus is still around. Is this something that is taken into consideration by the government?
Absolutely. I think it's something that's really very important to deal with. And I think in Morocco, we are trying to see, we have the British, the variant, the B1 variant extra, and I think we are watching it closely. And I think by the end of April, this variant will be the dominant one in Morocco. But I think what we are really having in Morocco, a great situation to have a mass vaccination because the plots is down and we have the infection rate is lower and the death numbers are lower. And I think if we do greatly with the mass vaccination, hopefully we can soon try to see the end of this pandemic in Morocco.
Simon, I think this is a case that, in a way or another, shows us the need for some sense of humility because we are on uncharted terrain and we're learning by the day from this particular case. Because if you go back to these particular cases of cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, it was detected in Spain, but then the same day they saw that there were some cases in Norway and Germany. And everyone freaked out and said, you know what? I think it's about time just to shelve everything for the time being. We are likely to see similar cases related to similar incidents in the near future. How do you think we should move forward tackling this particular issue, at the same time maintaining the momentum of the vaccination campaign?
Well, I think that people get blood clots. They happen in every country every day, and unless there is a very clear numerical association between vaccination and these blood clots, then really all that should be done is a careful, increased observation, increased surveillance of the situation, rather than pressing the panic button when really it's far too early to start panicking. Because if you do that and you do it unnecessarily, which does appear to be the situation at the moment, then you will frighten people away from the vaccine, and you will make them, by definition, therefore, more susceptible to COVID-19.
Well, Jeffrey, we have been frightening people for quite some time, and you have people who have always been skeptical about the vaccine. Comes this particular case and the suspension of the use of AstraZeneca at a time when every day that goes by without vaccination being administered in many European countries could really mean a difference between life and death. And under this particular landscape, why should the EU move forward?
Well, I mean, we have really fed the monster, those who are, strongly opposed to vaccination. Although that's often a small number, they're very vocal. So I do agree with Simon that the issue is we need to investigate the cases, but we didn't need to necessarily suspend its use, and that Europe didn't act as a bloc or follow the recommendations of the European Medicines Agency, I think also reduces some of the confidence in the system. So moving forward, Europe needs to really show after the decision tomorrow that we will secure more vaccines, we will administer them more rapidly, and that we will work, country by country, population by population, to build the confidence. We really need a strong European and even a stronger global campaign to build vaccine confidence.
Azeddine, are you likely to further scrutinize the track record of any pharmaceutical company in the near future because of this whole issue about vaccine safety?
Well, I think the clinical trials were there to show that this vaccine is safe like the others. I think it was amazing also that when you look at the other vaccines, and I have to say that Pfizer has the same effect on a limited number of people. Moderna has the same thing. And it's surprising that the only one that gets really hit by the EU is AstraZeneca. Maybe the AstraZeneca is not available in Europe, but that's just a really commercial and political decision, nothing to do with science. I think we have to go back to the basic. Scientific committees decide if the vaccine is safe and its efficacy and the quality of production. And I think that's what we are trying to do. And we need some leadership from Europe to do that also.
Simon, if we are to pause just for a second and look at the overall picture, which is the global fight against COVID-19. Those who were optimistic were thinking that if things go hunky-dory, by September, October or November, we could reach some sort of herd immunity in some parts of the world. 2022 would be the beginning of the end for COVID-19. Do you see that optimism still prevailing against the backdrop of this particular case of suspension of AstraZeneca vaccine?
I think that sooner or later, in fact very soon, the Oxford-Astrazeneca vaccine won't be restricted in its use. I think people will have come to their senses. But if we get much more of this, when it's groundless, it's perfectly acceptable when there's a reason to do it. But if we get more groundless speculation about this sort of thing, then we'll end up in a situation where we keep pushing back on our sort of time frame to beat COVID-19. You're quite right. Come the autumn, many countries, the UK certainly will, hopefully, should be looking at herd immunity to effectively stop the spread of the virus in their populations. And then in 2022, you'll see more of that around the world. But quite simply, if you make people frightened of the vaccine, and there are people who do want to do that, then you're pushing it back, and you're, like I said earlier, exposing more and more people around the world to the risk of death from COVID-19.
Looking forward to hearing some very positive news in the upcoming days. for that rollout to be continuing, increasing, spreading all over the world and putting an end to this disease that has shattered many, many lives globally. Jeffrey, Lazarus, Azeddine, Ibrahimi, Simon, Clark, I really appreciate your insight and your time. Looking forward to talking to you in the near future. Thank you too for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Hashem, Ahelbarra, and the entire team here in Doha. Bye for now.